Welcome back to the From Chaos to Control method. And today we're going to talk about the concepts of systems creation. Once again, we are in the routines and habits for success part of the heroine's journey. And we're going to cover what systems are, the three-step systems creation process, systems management, and mindset shifts when it comes to systems. So, what are systems? Systems refer to a set of procedures, protocols, and routines that are put into place to help manage and streamline various aspects of your life and business. They can help manage time and workload more effectively, reduce stress and overwhelm, and improve your overall organization and productivity, ensuring that your business and personal life run smoothly. So, the three step systems process is identify, create, and revise. And we're going to dive a little deeper now. So, the first step, identify. Evaluate your existing systems and workflows. Consider how you currently manage your writing time, family responsibilities, personal tasks, and other areas of your life. Reflect on what is working well and what areas could use improvement. The second step is create, and you will develop a step by step process or to address an identified problem. These steps should help you accomplish the task more efficiently or effectively. So, in this creation step, we want to include all the necessary information. The information should contain facts only, and extra information should be placed in an appendix. And follow a logical thought process and number all the steps to complete the procedure in hierarchical format, like this list that you're looking at. So, in terms of identification tips, we want to start each step of the procedure with an action word, i.e., contact, write, edit, etc. Write the steps as if you were speaking them to maintain train of thought, and use screenshots or visuals. These can be more effective than test text when it comes to your systems. So the third step is revise. Life is unpredictable and circumstances can change quickly. Your systems may have worked well in the past, but if your circumstances change, they may no longer be effective. For example, if you have a new baby or start a new job, your previous systems may no longer be sufficient to meet your needs. One way to help remind you is to add calendar event every year or different times of the year to review your systems and or add new ones. Two important aspects of optimizing your productivity and focus are time tracking and mini environments. These elements go hand in hand with effective systems as they help you gain better control over your time and create the ideal conditions for deep work and concentration. So, talking about time tracking. So, balancing estimated and actual time tracking is essential for effective time management. By accurately estimating and tracking your time, you can optimize your productivity, improve your planning, and make more informed decisions about how to allocate your time effectively. So, estimated time is the initial prediction or approximation of task during duration, which can help with planning, setting expectations, and prioritizing tasks. Whereas actual time is the real time taken to complete a task, which provides insights into productivity, efficiency, and accuracy of estimates. This data allows evaluation, improvement, and workflow adjustments. The second way to maximize efficiency is to work in mini environments. This is done by batching tasks into one location or batching like tasks together. Now, these are the different environments, these tools that we use, depending on what process you're currently on. So, that could include social media management, photo software, formatting software, email, website hosts, newsletter hosts, word processors, distributors, project management software, to name a few. And when it comes to systems management, unless you've already established systems in a particular place, I would recommend starting off simple. If you are a digital person, try Google Suite or Microsoft Office. And if you prefer pen to paper, start with a blank notebook. But eventually, you will want to bring this into a shareable/editable place in the case of you hiring someone to accomplish these tasks in the future. Two more management considerations include format. So, you want to choose a location that is conducive to the format of your systems. For example, if you prefer to document in a physical binder, you may need to choose a location with enough storage space to accommodate multiple binders. Ease of use. So, you want to choose a location that is easy to use and navigate. This will make it more likely that you will refer to it regularly and follow the documented processes. Now, some mindset shifts when it comes to systems creation include resistance to change, lack of time, perfectionism, and overcomplication. So, to dive a little deeper, it can be difficult to break old habits and adopt new systems, especially when you're already juggling multiple responsibilities. Sometimes the idea of creating a whole system can seem overwhelming. Instead, focus on small changes that impact your immediate situation first. For instance, if you're in launch mode right now, just focus on creating systems around launch tasks as you complete them. We're often stretched thin, and finding the time to create and revise systems can be a challenge. Look for opportunities that frequently block you and brainstorm ways to streamline your workflow and automate tasks where possible. Consider delegating tasks or outsourcing to free up more time for systems creation. We're often perfectionists when it comes to writing, and the mindset can also spill over into systems creation and revision. Try to focus on progress over perfection, recognizing that systems are meant to be flexible and adaptable, and that it's okay to make mistakes or encounter challenges along the way. Systems which are overly complex can be difficult to implement and sustain. To overcome this, strive for simplicity and clarity in your systems. Look for opportunities to streamline your workflow and eliminate unnecessary steps or tasks. Keep your systems as simple as possible. So, for this mission task, I'd like you to reflect on your current systems and identify just one area where you feel there is room for improvement. This could be related to task organization, time management, or any other aspect of your author mom responsibilities. Welcome back to the From Chaos to Control method. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about publishing systems. Just a reminder, we are in the R step of the heroine's journey for routines and habits for success. So here's what we're going to cover: identifying publishing systems, creating publishing systems, and introduction to your publishing SOP, which is linked below in this lesson. So, using the concepts from the previous lesson, we're going to dive a lot deeper and start working in our SOP. And I'm so excited. So, in terms of systems and buckets, these are sort of the overarching groups under a publishing system. So, you have the pre production stages, the production stages, and marketing. Funneling down into, through those systems, in the pre production phase, you have idea generation, market research, outlining, drafting, and revision. And in the production stage, it depending on your publishing path, you could have submission guidelines to agents and editors, which would be more of the traditional route. Working with editors, book design and formatting, proof copies, final approval, and publication. And in the marketing systems, you have pre launch marketing, launch day activities, post launch marketing, social media management, and income sources. So, again, we're going to use the concepts from the previous lesson: identify, create, and revise. So, in the identify steps, what are the steps involved to complete a specific task? So, using the example of idea generation, where do you house your book ideas? Do you put them in a notebook or a Google Doc? What books do you read when you're most inspired? How often do you read? Do you read while you're drafting? I know a lot of authors don't do that, or they try to stay away from certain genres when they're brainstorming. So, how do you explore your ideas? Do you mind map? Do you free write? Do you share with your writing group? Looking at the second step, we want to write the system out, including timelines and tools. So, looking at the idea generation example, so say that your timeline is 2 to 3 weeks to be able to get your ideas down. You could choose a dedicated notebook for the project, choose and read 5 books in the thriller genre. I'm using myself as an example here as a thriller author. Actively brainstorm 25 minutes per working day with a notebook. And then there's a daily download of any notes from the phone into that notebook to have everything in one place. Another example is market research when it comes to identification. These are some questions you can ask that are also in your SOP document, so you don't have to write them all down now. So, who is your reader avatar for your genre? Study comp titles, look at sales ranking, pricing, formats for bestsellers in your genre. Do you research keywords? What tools do you use? How do you follow industry trends? Do you follow blogs, podcasts, and or newsletters? So then we're going to go to the create step of the market research. We look at our timeline. So 1 week per pen name. So the reader avatar for Caitlin L. Duncan, thriller author, female 35 to 55, often needs an escape and appreciates the surprising twists of thrillers, enjoys books with complex female characters, and watches true crime documentaries on the regular. Research and document 10 comparative titles into dedicated Google Doc using Publisher Rocket and Amazon, analyze and note sales rankings and potential keywords. And on Friday afternoons, spend 1 hour reviewing the latest Publishers Weekly and Ally blog. So, as you sort of understand this process of identify and create, I am going to go through the identify stage for all of these different areas. Now, the create stage is going to be completely personal and dependent on how you produce books. So, I have all of these questions, like I said, in your SOP. So, I'd like for you to answer them as we go through. I will talk about these first. And these are just ways to think about how you're doing your systems. And feel free, these are not a comprehensive list of questions. So if you have any on the outside or you're thinking about something different, feel free to just include it in that appropriate section. So identifying step for outlining. What is the premise of your book? Who are the characters? What is the setting? Where do you house this information? What is the narrative structure? How do you break down the book? Do you do it in scenes or chapters? And how do you refine your scenes or chapters to fit the narrative structure? When it comes to drafting, what is your writing schedule? What is your word count goal? Do you break down a writing session in terms of word count or pages? How do you do this? Looking at the revision step. What does your initial edit look like after a first draft? How do you approach structural edits? When do you address style and voice? What is your process for line and copy edits? What is your process for proofreading? What tools or resources do you use? How many editing rounds do you typically do? When and how do you seek feedback? What is your process for incorporating feedback? How do you know when your editing is done? In terms of submission guidelines, how do you identify which publishers or imprints are the best fit for your book? How do you go about finding and choosing a literary agent? If you have an agent, what's the process for each book that you want them to sell? Query letters, what elements do you include and how do you tailor them to each specific submission? Do you use a specific system or tool to record when and where you submitted your work? How long do you wait to hear back from a publisher or agent before following up? What steps do you take when a submission is rejected? What factors do you consider when deciding whether to accept a publishing offer? Do you work with a lawyer or agent, or do you handle contract negotiations yourself? And this step is particularly something that you want to keep in your SOP if you are going the trad route, because the way that publishing is now, it's a very volatile place, and there are many authors and many agents turning over. So if you need to go back and start this system again, you really don't have to reinvent the wheel if you have everything in your SOP. Working with editors, what's your process for selecting an editor? How much does cost factor into your decision? How often do you expect to communicate with your editor during the process? What channels do you go through? Do you email them? Do you text them? Video call? When you receive feedback from your editor, how do you go about reviewing and implementing it? What steps do you take if you disagree with the feedback or suggestions provided by your editor? After receiving your edited manuscript, how do you approach revisions? Do you tackle all the changes at once, or do you focus on one aspect at a time? How do you ensure a mutual respect and open communication with your editor throughout the process? Book design and formatting. How do you find and vet potential designers? What qualifications or previous work do you look for? What details about your book and its audience do you share with them to help the designer understand what you're looking for? How should the book's genre, tone, and key themes be represented on the cover? What criteria do you use to assess the design, and how do you communicate any revisions you want? What are your formatting standards for the interior of your books? This might include standards for headings, page numbers, margins, line spacing, and font choices. How do you choose the right size and format for your book? What is your process for proofreading the final design and layout? What elements do you include in your book's front and back matter? Proof copies. At what stage in the publishing process do you order your first proof copy, or when do you get them from your publisher? How are you checking for typos and grammatical errors? Do you read the entire book again, or do you just focus on specific areas? Do you review it all in one go or break it down into sections? Do you have others review it as well, or do you handle this process yourself? How do you note necessary changes, and how do you communicate these to your designer or printer? Once revisions have been made, what steps do you take to ensure they've been implemented correctly? If changes are needed after the first proof, do you order another? How many proof copies do you typically go through in the pre publication process? What criteria must be met before you approve the final proof? Once the proof is approved, what steps do you take to move forward with publication? And if you discover an issue after the book is printed, what is your process for handling this? The final approval and publication. So, what aspects of the book do you review one last time before giving your approval? Do you consult with any other individuals before deciding to publish? What platforms do you publish on? What are the steps for submitting your book to each one? What factors do you consider when deciding on your book's price? And how do you choose the appropriate categories, keywords, and other metadata to help readers discover your book? If you set up pre orders, what is your process for managing this? And how far in advance of the publication date do you start? After your book is listed online, how do you check to ensure everything is appearing correctly? If you discover a mistake in the published book, what is your process for making corrections? How do you inform your audience, media, and other relevant parties about the new book? What tools or strategies do you use to keep track of sales, reviews, and other metrics after your book is published? And how do you assess the success of the publication process? And how do you use this information to make improvements for next time? Now, moving on to marketing. So, how many months or weeks before the book's release do you begin your marketing efforts? Are you looking to build awareness? Who are your ideal readers? Will you be utilizing social media, email marketing, book trailer, influencer partnerships, etc.? What should potential readers know about your book? And why should they be excited to read it? What tactics do you use to build excitement about your release? Will you offer bonuses, exclusive content, or other incentives to encourage pre orders? How will you involve your current fans in the excitement of the upcoming launch? What metrics will you track to assess the effectiveness of your campaign. If certain tactics are not working as expected, how will you adjust your strategy? Now, looking at launch day in itself is a big deal, and a lot of it you can prep beforehand, but it all comes down to this day. So, what activities have you planned? Will you have a party, a live stream, a virtual event? How will you announce the launch? When will you announce the launch? Do you have specific posts, emails, or other content prepared to share on the day of launch? This is where systems really help because if you have a particular way that you are doing launch days with specific types of images or posts, you can add them to your systems and rinse and repeat every book that you have. So, are you offering a discount, bonus content, or other incentives? Will you respond to comments, hold a Q&A session, hold a live chat? Do you have any interviews or appearances lined up? How will you keep track of reviews, comments, and other feedback? And how will you respond? What do you hope to achieve on launch day in terms of sales? How will you continue to promote your book, engage with your audience, and keep momentum going after launch day, which leads into post launch marketing? So, how long is your post launch campaign? What strategies do you use to keep your audience interested and engaged now that the big launch day is over? Will you have any special discounts or giveaways or promotions after the launch? How will you encourage readers to leave reviews and how will you use these reviews in your marketing? Will you write blog posts, create social media content, make videos, or create other content related to your book? How will you continue to use your email list to promote your book and engage with your readers? Will you seek out interviews, guest posts, collaborations? What metrics do you monitor to assess the effectiveness of your marketing? What do you hope to achieve in terms of sales? And how will you modify your marketing plan based on what's working and what's not? When it comes to social media management, which platforms do you use? What is your posting schedule? What types of content do you share? How will you engage with your audience on each platform? How do you track performance on each platform? And income sources. What are your income sources, big or small? This might include book sales, speaking engagements, freelance writing, consulting, coaching, teaching, affiliate marketing, etc. How do you track your income from each source? What strategies do you use to grow your income from each source? How do you diversify your income sources? How do you budget and manage your income? So those are all the identify steps. And then throughout this process, you're going to answer those questions and create your SOP. But then we move on to the revise stage. So looking at your system while you're typing it out or screen sharing or anything like that, think about, does this system still work for you? If yes, then you probably don't need to change it right now. But during this process, if you want to improve certain systems, I recommend, sort of like a parking lot, add annotations or comments to the SOP to highlight areas of concern or possible changes. Or you can add a review section to each section of the SOP with your suggested changes to do at a later date. If it's something simple that you can change, I would say go ahead and change it. If it's not, definitely make a note. And during your next review, you can look at that note. So, at regular intervals, quarterly, semi annually, or annually, whatever, have a formal review of the systems. On this predetermined date, go through your SOP, look at each process, and evaluate its effectiveness. Review the feedback you've collected and check if the progress still aligns with your current practices and goals. Now, this could involve adding new steps, removing unnecessary ones, rewording for clarity, or restructuring for better flow. To track these changes, especially when you have a team, this is super important. Make sure to note the date, details of the update, and person responsible in the update record section of the SOP. It's important to keep a record of changes just in case you need to go back and undo those changes. So, I know that was a lot. Please don't get stressed out. I can feel some of you being stressed out right now. So, For your task for this mission, the mission task in the SOP document for publishing, identify and create the publishing systems that you are utilizing right now. If you feel there are any that that need a revision, just highlight them, circle them. You don't have to go into revising at this step unless you want to. And once that's complete, add the SOP update record date and what you did. You can just put, systems creation, the date, and your name.